Hello and welcome to your third session of our Deep Winter Yin course. So in this third session, we're going to focus a little bit more on the urinary bladder meridian line, which begins in the inside of the eye and runs up through the forehead, down the back of the skull, and runs down both sides of the spine close towards the center of the back, down towards the buttocks. And then there's a secondary line that runs from the kind of underside of the shoulder blade, down the back of the leg, all the way to the calf, the back of the knee, and then down into the foot and the sole of the foot. And finishes in the little toe side of the foot on the outer side. So the postures, the yin archetypes or shapes that I've chosen for our sequence today, mostly works the back chain of the body. And actually, there's one sheet of fascia, connective tissue, that connects the sole of the foot all the way up the back of the leg, the back of the spine, all the way up the back of the skull. So when we're taking these yin postures, the idea is that we're innovating or putting pressure or load along that channel in order to encourage the flow of prana, flow of energy through the back of the body, and release tension that can be felt muscularly, but also energetically along this line. So the water element is connected with, we often map the elements from Chinese medicine with the kind of seasons across our life, as well as the seasons within the year, as well as the cycle within the day. And the water element, and which is connected with deep winter, is connected with the sleeping time from sunset to sunrise. Dreaming is often described as quite a watery state where our sense of space and time begins to morph and melt away. And I wanted to set that as more of our energetic theme for our class today. I think it's so rare that we give ourselves the quietness and the space and the permission to deeply rest and to dream and to let our body and our mind exist in this kind of very soft, creative, whimsical place. So that's my intention for you guys as you practice today. No matter what time of day you're practicing, I'd love to invite you into this kind of water liminal space where we can just allow the mind to be loose and soft. And maybe you can let dreams and kind of gentle, whimsical thoughts surface without immediately transforming that into a goal or an action point or a to-do list. So let's begin seated or kneeling, whichever is more comfortable for you. And we'll come to the mat. I'd encourage you to light a candle to add a little bit of ritual and ceremony to your practice, and to move the phone away from the room to really clear away any distractions that might draw you into the more active yang kind of part of our lives. Let this practice here be a real rest and a chance to dream and restore and let things just bubble to the surface without adding any attachment or meaning or action points. Brahma Mudra to begin. Bring the hands into the lap, dominant hand under less dominant hand. The tips of your thumbs come together to touch. Close your eyes and lift the crown of the head up towards the sky and feel the shoulder blades dropping down your back. As your eyes close, begin to focus your attention on the space just an inch in front of the third eye, which is the space between your eyebrows. Observe your posture, connecting to the bones of your body, the skeleton, feeling the way that the spine curves and stacks, feeling how the spine sits within the basin of the pelvis, and feel how the legs extend from the pelvis down towards the shins, the feet, the toes. Let the muscle and the fascia kind of soften and loosen around your bone structure. Align the face as well, so you're drawing the jawbone back towards the top of the spine. And feel the dome of the crown of your head sitting above the dome of the throat, above the dome of your diaphragm, the main respiratory muscle that sits around the center of the rib cage. And then feel the dome of the pelvic floor that straddles the middle of the pelvic bone, or the pelvic basin. As you breathe in, grow taller through the crown of the head. And as you exhale, move your chin towards the right side, turning your head really, really slowly. Imagine a bowl of water on the crown of the head. Inhale to bring your head back to center, timing it perfectly with the inhalation. And as you exhale, move your chin towards the left side, eyes still closed, ears level, crown of the head lifting. Inhale to bring your head back to center, timing it perfectly. As you exhale, lift your chin towards the sky, opening up your throat. Feel the shoulder blades drawing down your back. Inhale to bring your head back to center. And as you exhale, bring your chin down towards your chest, widening around the back of the shoulders. And then inhale to bring your head back to center. As you exhale, move your chin again towards the right side, slowly and steadily, almost as if your skull is not moving. And then bring your head quietly, silently back through to center. When you're ready, exhale, turn the chin towards the left side, ears stay level, crown of the head lifting. And inhale, make your way back through to center. As you exhale, lift your chin towards the sky, opening up your throat. Inhale to bring your head back to center. And as you exhale, bring your chin down towards your chest, widening around the back of your shoulders. And inhale, bring your head back to center. Blink the eyes open and just gently draw your right ear towards your right shoulder to release the left side of your neck. You can add to this by bringing your right arm over the top of the head and just gently adding a tiny bit of load, almost lengthening your left ear towards your hand. You can accentuate that further by releasing your left arm and stretching your left arm diagonally away from your right elbow. And then use your right hand to gracefully glide your head back to center, hands back into the lap. Same on the other side, bring your left ear towards your left shoulder. Just lean into that, allowing your shoulder blades to drop down away from your neck and your ears. And then if you want to add on, you can bring your left arm over your head and gently feel for the right ear. And more than move the head, it's more about lengthening the connective tissue on the right side of the neck. Chin's crease still slightly tucking in, jawbone pulling back towards the cervical spine, the neck part of your spine. And then you can accentuate that further still by extending the right arm out at a diagonal line. Make sure the top of the right shoulder drops down. Good, and then use your left hand to glide your head back through to center. And let's go into the back of the neck now. And we'll begin to tap into the urinary bladder meridian line here. Elbows around the face, roll your chin in towards your chest, widening around the back of the shoulder. And again, it's not about moving the head so much as lengthening the connective tissue and the skin along the back of your neck. Good, and then open up your chest and do the reverse, kind of lean your head back, press your elbows wide and feel the shoulder blades begin to slot together on your upper back. And then recenter and release your arms down. Good job. Let's come into our first yin pose. So make your way down to a lying position on your mat. You're very welcome to place a blanket on top of the yoga mat. So you've got a little bit of warmth, a little bit of cushioning, but you don't have to. And then let's move this candle. Let's slide your feet underneath your sitting bones here and just notice how your head and neck feel in relation to one another. If you feel that the chin is jutting up to the sky, then lengthen the back of your skull away behind you. So you've got a feeling of the jawbone pressing down towards the throat. If you still don't feel that that's enough release and support for your neck, then place a thinly folded blanket underneath the back of your head. Then let's bring left leg up towards the ceiling. Hold the back of the thigh lightly. Don't worry if the knee is bent. And think about rolling the weight of your pelvis forward. So the sitting bone part of your back gets heavier. The bum feels heavier on the ground and the lower back begins to lift a little or certainly becomes light. Just beginning to open up along that urinary bladder meridian line there that runs through the whole of the back of the leg into the glutes. Now, the benefit of working this meridian line is it's so good therapeutically for lower back tension, which often arises because of tension through this back chain of muscle in the body. Then bend your left knee, take your left foot to the right thigh and see how that feels. If there's any issues with the knee and the knee doesn't enjoy being in this kind of rotated out angle, then instead take happy baby pose here. But otherwise, left foot on the right thigh, hands onto the front of the hip bones, the prominences at the front of the pelvis, and arch again your pelvis forward so the lower back lifts and those hip bones begin to protrude up and point forward towards the thighs. And you might find that that's enough of a release for you. We want the pelvis to stay steady and even here. Or if you feel that you'd like a little bit more of a release, then you bring your arms around the right leg and gently loop the arms around the right thigh or even the right shin. But here, prioritize that neck and shoulder and pelvis alignment. So we still want the back of the pelvis to be pressing down, the lower back to be lifting up. And we want the shoulders to be flat on the ground and the jawbone pressing down towards the collarbones. Now we'll be in this pose for 3 minutes, and there is a more yin way of doing this as well, where you place a bolster underneath your feet, so bolster underneath that right foot, and then you could even have a brick in your left hand to help push that left knee forward, and then you're using a little bit less muscular effort to hold the pose. Let your eyes close and immediately soften the body, surrendering the body's weight down towards the ground. It may well be that you feel quite a big muscular stretch here in the left glute or the left inner groin, maybe even the back of the right hamstring. But let's bring our attention away from the superficial muscles, the muscles that move the body, and instead bring your attention into your bone structure, tuning into the way that the jawbone drops down to the throat, that your shoulder blades drop down to the earth, that the curves of the spine release down onto your mat with a heaviness through the sacrum, the flat bone at the back at the center of your pelvis. Let's begin to foster that quality of deep listening that accompanies the yin practice. So listening intimately but non-intrusively to whatever surfaces within the body, the mind, the emotions, the breath. Listen without judgment, without labeling, without creating any stories or action points. Just allow the sensation to surface and let it pass with the exhale. And then let's bring our attention to the breath. So as you breathe in, notice that expansive, brightening, energizing quality that comes with the inhalation, but let that be soft. And as you exhale, breathe out in a way where it feels like a real sense of release and letting go. See if you can soften the edges around the breath. So there's a barely perceptible shift from inhale to exhale, tracking through this moment of stillness in between the sides of the breath. And then let's begin to deepen the exhale side of the breath. So exhale is maybe a couple of beats longer than the inhale. Dwell on that moment of stillness before the breath becomes an inhale again. Check in with your bone structure and see if there's a bit more space now between the bones. A bit more space within the left hip joint where the leg bone meets the pelvis. Maybe a bit more length and space in the lower back and the back of your glutes, the back of the hip joints. Maybe a bit more softness and ease around the jaw and the shoulder blades. And then slowly unravel the legs very gingerly and bring both of your knees in towards your chest. Our next pose will require a yoga belt or a strap. So if you don't have a yoga belt to hand, you're really welcome to grab a bathrobe belt or just a normal jeans belt and loop that around the foot instead. But otherwise, grab hold of your yoga belt. There's a kind of, you can do this with a short one like this, but ideally if you've got a long one, then unravel the long belt and loop the tail of the strap closest to the fabric. Bring it over the bridge and bring the tail out the top of the buckle. Keep the belt quite long and then loop your left leg into the strap. So the same leg that was folded towards the right on the last pose. So left leg lifts. Now, there's an option if you have a long belt to place the strap around the back of your skull. It needs to be above the ear line, nowhere near your neck. And then you can adjust the strap so that as you lie back, your head hovers maybe an inch off the floor, maybe a millimeter off the floor. And the weight of the head allows the left leg to be an extension, to be all straight. And then you can lengthen your right leg down onto the bolster or straight down to the floor or onto a brick. Some of you might also prefer to place a cushion or a kind of blanket underneath the back of the head so there's no strain in your neck whatsoever. If you're more flexible, the strap will be a little bit shorter. If you've got more restriction in the back of the leg, you'll need the strap a bit longer, or you might find that hanging the head in the strap like this is just a little bit too strong. So choose an option that feels sustainable. We're going to be in this one for a while, so it's a 5-minute hold, this one. So knowing there's time, just choose a posture, choose the depth of the posture that feels sustainable and appropriate for your unique body. Remember, our goal in Yin is not to push for flexibility. It's not really to change the body in any way anatomically or physiologically. It's more about resetting the nervous system and reconditioning the fascia, the connective tissue that surrounds the muscles and the bones, creating space within the joints between where the bones meet, and then stimulating these meridian channels. So it's much more subtle than just going in for that muscular stretch. As we come into this posture, which is a kind of known as Supta Utthita Hasta Padangusthasana in Hatha Yoga, or SUHP pose, as I abbreviate it to. This posture perfectly stimulates the UB line. If your knee needs to be bent, that's fine. If your leg is shaking, that means that you're maybe at the end range of some of the muscle fibers and it's a bit too strong. So although that might be fine in a hatha class, in yin, you might want to just give yourself a little bit more space so the leg isn't wildly shaking as you take this pose. We want an element of rest, remember. And then just really allowing the head to fall back. The whole body wants to feel like it's falling back into a warm, watery surface. Let your eyes close and emulate this dreamlike state where you're not holding on to any one specific thought or sensation. You're just allowing there to be this flow of sensory experience. Let the mind be open, creative, abstract, esoteric even. Bring your attention to your arms and let your arms be soft and heavy as they drape towards the ground. Shoulder blades want to really drop down away from the back of your ribs. And let's come into a simple count to 10 breathing technique so your mind stays connected to the flow of your breath. So without rushing in any way, as you next breathe in, call your inhalation breath 1 in your mind. And as you exhale, call your exhalation breath 2. Let it linger at the end. Then when the breath turns its tide, call your next breath in 3. And really let the breath dictate the pace, not your mind, not the counting. Keep counting both sides of the breath all the way to 10. And when you reach 10, or if you lose count, just begin again at 1. We're about halfway through now. If you feel that you need a bit more support, you might want to roll a bolster underneath that lower right leg. If you want to intensify the pose a little bit, you might want to roll the bolster away from your leg a little bit. Final deep breath just here. And then hold on to the strap, slowly release your head from the strap if it was in, lay the skull on the ground and notice how that feels. And then keeping the strap around your left leg, just slowly lower your left leg down towards the ground and then let go of the strap, let your feet relax completely and just notice how the left and the right leg feel on the ground. Keep your mind soft in a kind of semi-dream-like, open, gentle space. Okay, good job. And then just slowly unhook your foot from the strap. And let's come into the same pose, same two poses on the other side. So you might want to recruit your bolster again so you can place your left foot this time on the bolster. Begin by lifting your right leg up and just testing the water, kind of feeling how the back of the right leg feels. Again, try and observe without judgment, without kind of chastising your body for feeling the way it does. This is just a way of assessing what your body needs. And then bring your right foot onto your left thigh for figure 4 or thread the needle. If your knee, again, doesn't like this action, this orientation, you come to happy baby pose like this. Otherwise, right foot on your left thigh, feel for the frontal hip bones and thumbs around the back of your pelvis. And begin to roll the pelvis forward. So the hip bones push forward towards your thighs and your lower back arch lifts away from the ground. Can you feel immediately that accentuates the release deep in the right glute? That shouldn't cause any pain for the right knee. If it does, then that's a reason to come into happy baby pose. And here, check that both sides of the pelvis and the waist are even. So we're not turning the pelvis in order to get the leg in the right shape. And you can either choose to stay here with the left foot on the bolster, or you may be using a block under the left foot instead. Or you can bring your arms around your left leg or your shin, or you could actually loop a strap around your leg and hold on to the strap if that's better. Make sure that the shoulder blades and the head are genuinely comfortable on the ground. A lot of times when I teach this pose in person, I can see people kind of straining their head up like a kind of bug on their back to hold onto the leg more aggressively. And it's just so important that the body is resting. Really, for the nervous system, if you're fighting for a pose, your nervous system will be in more of a state of alert, which is counterintuitive because your muscles will then continue to be tense. We need to make sure the body feels so supported that the nervous system allows the muscles to lengthen. So we're working really from the body first, not from the mind pushing the body into a shape. So give body permission to rest by aligning yourself, by propping yourself so that you feel completely supported by the pose. And then notice the bone structure of your body here. So the jawbone drops down towards the back of the spine. The neck vertebrae lengthen away from one another, creating space between the shoulders and the skull. Let your shoulder blades drop heavily down to the floor. And we want to roll the weight, which often does sit around the kind of upper lumbar spine, the kind of bottom of the ribs. We want to roll the weight forward towards the sacrum, which is the bone at the central back of the pelvis. So roll the pelvis forward and down onto the floor. And if it's hard to do that, that's usually a sign that you need to hold a little bit further back on the leg. So you might need to hold the thigh instead of the shin, or place the left foot on a bolster. And you've got time here, so let your mind soften into the watery, soft space of that dreamlike state. Not fantasizing, not creating to-do lists, but just allowing the mind to soften away from the need to do and to achieve. Give yourself permission to really rest, to allow for many possibilities without needing to know the outcome. Give the mind time and space to let weird and random things come to the surface without it meaning anything, without judging, condoning, analyzing. Begin to notice the way that the breath flows through your body. Gently and persistently, like water lapping inside the body, ebbing away at tension slowly, gradually, without force. There's 2 more breaths here. And then slowly release your hands bind. Feel for your yoga belt and loop the strap around the right foot. I think that posture, thread the needle, is just such a perfect primer for this more direct stretch through the back of the right leg. So now lengthen your left leg, and you might want to have it on the ground, or you might want a bolster underneath the back of the knee, or maybe a block if you don't have. And then there's the option to take the strap around the back of the skull, above the ear. You'll need to kind of wriggle it around until it has a hold. Make sure the strap is nowhere near the neck. We want the neck to be in a semi-neutral position here. It will be slightly longer at the back in a slight flexion, but ultimately you still want to have a bit of space between your chin and your throat. You can adjust the length of the strap so that it feels appropriate and sustainable for the back of the right leg, and it might be different one side to the other. Drape the arms down towards the ground, palms up, fingers soft, and let the shoulder blades drop down. And remember, if it's not comfortable or right for you to have the strap around the back of the head, you can be holding the strap just either side. Make sure that the arms are straight. You can bind the strap around the hands if that makes it more kind of easier to hold on to for a longer period of time. Totally fine for the knee to be a little bit bent. And then bring your attention to the back of the pelvis. And again, just make sure that the pelvis still feels heavy, that not all the load is going into that upper lumbar spine, the kind of upper lower back. We want to feel that the pelvis is also receiving some weight. Let's come back to the count to 10 breathing technique. So as you breathe in, call your inhalation breath 1. As you exhale, call your exhalation breath 2. Inhale, breath 3. Exhale 4, and continue to count both sides of your breath all the way to 10. One of the most beneficial things about the yin practice, I find, is that it's a way of entering a more meditative state. But for so many of us, it feels more accessible doing this kind of very quiet, introspective practice than just sitting and focusing the mind on one thing. It's very confronting for many people to meditate because it's when we're still that we notice how busy and chaotic and uncomfortable the mind and the body can be as a space, especially if we need to repress or to kind of distance ourselves from our kind of inner feelings, our inner experience in order to just get on with life. And I think the yin practice provides us enough sensation and stimulus by way of kind of releasing the body along these certain points. And the posture and the nervous system can work so beautifully. Like when our body is expressing a pose of release, that means the nervous system will also create this feeling of release. It will take the cue from the body that it's safe to relax. And then that mind is already primed to be in a state that is conducive to meditative awareness. The body and the mind are so intimately connected. And so for me, it makes sense to include the body in the kind of pursuit to find a meditative state. As we release tension in the body, we release tension in the mind. As we open the body, we open the mind. So rather than just connecting to this pose as a way of stretching the hamstrings, think about it more as a way of opening the body. Turning things upside down. Your leg is usually grounded on the floor, and right now it's up to the sky. You're reversing kind of habitual patterns. And as you do that, maybe something opens within your mind and your psyche and your soul that allows you to look at something differently, allows you to hold space for yourself in a more compassionate and quiet and focused way. And last breath here. Amazing. And then slowly release the strap from the head. If you had it there, lay your head on the ground and notice how that feels. And then use the strap to lever the leg down and rest the legs on the bolster or flat to the ground. And be present for this moment of stillness as your body finds the floor beneath you, finds the surface that supports you. Really let yourself lean into that. Giving yourself this dreaming space, this moment of deep rest. Amazing, well done. And then let's transition to our next pose. So begin to bring the elbows towards the ground, roll the spine up through to a seated position. Keep your gaze low, so you're keeping this introspective, soft, more yin-like quality. I'd actually keep the bolster where it is. Push yourself forward to sit on the bolster, or you might prefer to sit on a block. And your first option is a variational malasana here. So I'm actually sitting on top of the bolster. I've got my elbows inside my knees like this, toes turning out to an 11 and 1 o'clock angle. And then I can sit up nice and comfortably here. And really, this is the most yin way of doing it. If you prefer to add a little bit more load, you can obviously have no bolster underneath the pelvis and just kind of be sitting in your malasana squat pose without any support for your bum. We'll be in this one for 2.5 to 3 minutes, so a little bit longer. So choose a pose that's sustainable. Now, if you come into this shape and it's just no good for your knees, then if you could come into child's pose instead, which looks like this. So toes together, knees as wide as possible. So you're also getting that inner thigh release that those in malasana squat pose are getting. And you bring your forehead down into this shape. And genuinely, either of those options are great. They both condition the inner thighs and stimulate the kidney meridian line. And they're both bringing energy and flow down towards the legs. You might like to have your eyes closed here so you can gaze forward to the space between the eyebrows. Hug your chest bone up towards your thumbs. Feel your lower back kind of lift in, again, rolling your pelvis forward a little bit rather than rolling the pelvis back into a slouch. So there's a little bit of active, more yang kind of work that can be done here around the lower back and the pelvis just to sustain the pose. And we're looking for that yin kind of soft, receptive quality to be felt around the inside of the legs. You can really press the palms together. If any of you have any carpal tunnel issues or wrist issues, you can hold on to forearms instead of pressing the palms together in prayer. Yeah, really enjoy your breath. It's so nourishing, so replenishing, so good at allowing you to let go of tension. So use the breath like medicine. Keep that watery, soft, dreamlike state within your mind. So the whole experience feels very soft and easygoing. It's okay to let things surface from the depths of the body, the mind. I suppose since the body is a little bit more upright, our sense organs are a bit more directed outward to the space that we're in. Let's see if we can cultivate this quality of deep listening, which is very connected to the winter season and the water element in Chinese medicine. Deep listening requires a sensitivity where you are able to listen intimately but non-intrusively, without analyzing, without judging, without even labeling what you're noticing. And then rather than bind a sound into form, giving it a name, we're just allowing ourselves to really explore the texture of the sound and the way that it surfaces, the way it recedes, the way it changes. You might begin to notice how one sound merges into another, that really we exist within a tapestry of sounds. And that there's a relationship between the sounds around us and the sounds within us. As sounds enter our awareness, they are becoming part of our inner landscape. And you might even begin to feel the space and the vibration beneath the sound. Slowly begin to blink the eyes open. If you did have your hands in prayer, circle through the wrists. The wrist joints did receive a little bit of pressure there if you had your hands in prayer. Good. And then we're going to come forward into one of, I think, the only standing yin pose that there is, elegantly called dangling pose. So turn your toes so they point a little bit more forward. Leave yourself off your bolster or your block if you're using one. You could keep the feet a little bit wider than hip distance apart. Hold on to opposite elbows and just simply hang the body forward over the legs. Now, if you have glaucoma, if you have high or low blood pressure and an inversion such as this doesn't feel good, lie on your back, Viparita Karani, lift both legs up towards the ceiling, keeping your heels above your bum. Otherwise, which is basically like this pose, but with the spine flat on the ground. But otherwise, dangling forward over the legs, gravity is really loading the spine to increase the feeling of a forward fold. If any of you have any back issues at the moment and this is causing some irritation for your back, then you might benefit from bending the knees and lengthening your chest forward like this. Excuse me. Otherwise, leaning your body forward, holding onto opposite elbows. And within this archetype, this kind of yin form, it's not really a posture in as much as it shouldn't look a certain way. It's just a kind of general shape, a general direction we're going in. You can allow there to be this play across the way that weight is loading your feet. Maybe leaning a little bit forward and backwards, noticing if you're rolling your weight to more the outer feet or the inner feet. You may let the head go a little bit more, the shoulders, the arms go a little bit more. We want the facial muscles to be really soft, the mouth soft. If you can, ujjayi breath, so you're stroking the breath along the back of your throat. Breathe really deeply into the back lobes of the lungs here. The breath provides this gorgeous kind of spinal massage in this shape because the belly and the kind of diaphragm at the front of the body is restricted. So we use the back of the lungs a little bit more here. You actually have a bigger surface area of lung at the back of your body than you do at the front. So you can really breathe into the whole back of the body. The lungs kind of move over halfway down your spine. They kind of end in like these tailcoat shapes just below the midpoint in your back. Even when you feel like you've relaxed and you've let go, see if you can let go a little bit more. There's 3 to 4 more breaths here. Make sure the teeth, the mouth is really soft. Good job. And then bring the hands towards the ground. Lift your chest and head up just enough so you don't get any head rush as you transition down onto the ground. So place one shin and then the other shin down, and we're going to meet in a child's pose. So toes together, knees wide towards the sides, and then you can either hug a bolster or take your forehead all the way down to the ground or onto a block. We're looking for the back of the pelvis to be resting on the heels here. So if you need to elevate your head in order to get that heaviness through the legs and the lower back and the pelvis, then do. If any of you struggle with the knees being in this deep flexion, this deeply bent shape, you could try placing a blanket just in the small of the back of the knees and see if that helps. Really give yourself permission to deeply rest, Be in a slightly dreamlike state where things just bubble up and shift and move and flow without you holding on to anything. It's a way of the mind processing and assimilating thought, feeling, experiences. Make your way forward onto all fours. We're just going to take a brief counter pose before we come into our next posture. So we're doing a lot of flexion, a lot of kind of spinal rounding and lengthening the back of the body. I'm just going to add an extension posture just to release your spine a different way before we come into our next pose. So knees underneath your hips. You start on an all fours position and then slide your hands away from your body so your chest and your chin dives down to the floor. This is Anahatasana. And it will just release your upper back and your rib cage if that was feeling a little bit kind of stuck or stagnant after all of these forward folding postures. If chin being down is uncomfortable, try forehead. You could also place forehead on a bolster or a block. We'll just be here for 1 minute. Ideally, the elbows are off the ground, palms flat. So the heaviest part of the pose feels like the chest. Imagine a warm, heavy stone resting between your shoulder blades, weighting you down. If you come into this pose and there's any pinching in your shoulders or nerve tingling or loss of sensation, then try taking your arms wider. If it's still too much, take the elbows down, be more moderate in the pose. This is an amazing pose to breathe deeply in. Slowly make your way back up through to center. Walk the knees forward towards your hands. Cross over your ankles and roll onto your bum. Let's come into our next posture. This one is called snail pose in yin. Halasana, plow pose in Hatha and Vinyasa yoga. Actually, I moved the bolster, but you might want a bolster behind you. I'll show you where you could put it here, because it might be that when we come and bring the legs over our heads, that the feet don't reach the ground. It's also handy if you're right near a sofa or a bed or something, you can also hook the feet onto that as well. This one is contraindicated if you have a kind of herniated or a slip disc and you find kind of rounded spinal postures a bit tricky, then there is a bit more load going into the back of the spine here. So if that's the case, again, happy baby pose would be a really good alternative, or child's pose. So pelvis in the center of the mat, roll down towards the ground and just begin with knees to chest. This also is a really nice alternative if you feel like you don't want to bring the legs all the way over. And then to come into the pose, press the arms into the floor and begin to swing the legs overhead. I'm going to need to move myself forward because I am going to end up under my sofa. And then you can either, let's move my mic so I don't distort the sound. You can either bring the legs over and let the knees just rest into the forehead, which I really like doing.
Or you can keep the legs strong and straight, and you might need to support your back a little bit there. Or, like I said, having your feet a little bit higher up on something. So, placing your feet on bolsters or blocks underneath your head will give you a little halfway house. So, we'll be in this one for 3 minutes. So knowing there's some time, give your body a little bit of a chance to find its way with the pose. This is a really intense yin pose, I think. Send the breath to the back of the lungs. Try not to judge the pose or your body based on the first few moments of your experience here, because there will be radical shifts in how the pose feels across the 3 minutes that will be here. So just keep attending to the body, making sure that you're feeling a release, a load going into the spine and the back of the legs, but that it's not unmanageable. And if you breathe deeply and focus on the body melting towards the ground, or the foundational parts of the body that are connecting to the floor right now, if you allow them to sink down, then you'll find the pose releases, your body's response to the shape changes. Just by holding steady, by being present, by softening and yielding into it. It might be that as your spine softens, your knees can bend and wrap into the temples. It creates a really nice point of pressure if your knees push into the temples a little. Maybe if your spine really begins to relax, you can drop the arms to the ground. But if that causes tension or makes you feel like you're going to fall out of the pose, then don't worry about it. Slowly begin to make your way down to the ground, vertebra by vertebra. Go really gently out of the pose. Land in Viparita Karani, so the back of the pelvis rocks to the ground. Keep the knees a little bit bent, but keep the legs dangling above the pelvis. Hands onto your belly. Let's take a few breaths here, letting your spine recover. And then bend your knees, take your feet either to the floor or feet on top of a bolster, semi-supine. And now your lower back can rebound into its natural in curve. So you'll feel the lower back just kind of bob up away from the ground. Adjust your shoulders, they walk down the back again. Not uncommon for the spine to feel a little tender after that long hold. And then begin to move your knees a little bit side to side, creating a gentle imbibing movement for the lower spine.
Amazing. And then we're going to come into a supine twist, which will hopefully be a tonic for the spine after that last pose. So slide your hips an inch towards the left, lengthen your right leg down through the midline of the mat, and bring your left leg over towards the right side. And I'd recommend slipping a bolster underneath the top of the knee. Stretch your arms out wide at more or less shoulder height, and it might be nice to just keep the center of the skull on the floor rather than turning your gaze towards your left hand, but see what feels welcome in your body. You can, of course, stack your knees, placing a block between your thighs. You could also lose the top bolster, the bolster underneath the top leg, and let the leg come lower down. But what I'd like to focus on is our lower spines being in a neutral in curve. So rather than depth of stretch around the outer hips, we're going for a feeling of width and space in the lower back and a gentle rotation through the ribs. Over time, we're looking for the ribs to drop towards the floor more as you rotate to the left. Let the left shoulder feel heavy on the ground. Really trust this process of deeply resting the body and stimulating it along these meridian channels to create a feeling of flow of energy in order to rebalance your nervous system and your mind and your emotions, and how attuned you are to this season of deep winter. Taoist teachings urge us to be in harmony with nature around us rather than fighting against it. And nature around us right now in deep winter is restoring, resting. It's a time of coldness, of quietness, of stillness, where nature internalizes its energy and sends its energy into the roots in preparation for an explosion in spring. Begin to rock your head side to side. And check the shoulders feel really warm and moist and soft on the ground. And then bring your head back to center. You can use your right arm to glide your left leg back into the middle of the mat, feet down onto the floor, recenter your pelvis. If you're using a bolster, roll it over to the other side. Slide your hips an inch towards the right, lengthen your left leg down into the center, and bring your right shin on top of the bolster. Walk out the shoulder blades, so both shoulder blades rest flat on the ground beneath you. You might want to hold on to this top thigh if that helps you, just to keep it comfortably down. You could also stack your knees rather than using a bolster. And if you do that, I'd recommend that you place a cushion or a block between your legs so your thigh bones are hip distance apart. Think about rotating and widening the rib cage onto the floor. And then add in this gentle rolling of the head side to side if that feels good. Really slowly. This will create a little bit of warmth in the tissue at the back of the neck, between the shoulder blades. You can even lean your head to one side for a while and take a few moments there, noticing the impact that has on the weight through the shoulder below it. And then slowly make your way back through to center, taking your feet down towards the ground below your sit bones. Just recenter your pelvis in the middle of the mat. Take a breath here, feeling maybe the warmth as the spine connects to the floor beneath you, maybe a few pelvic tilts just to create this imbibing, rocking effect in the tissue around the lower back and the pelvis. And then bring your knees in towards your chest. And if you're happy to rock up, rock up. If you prefer to roll to the side, then take that option. I'm going to come into our last yin pose now. Now this one is gorgeous, done up the wall. I don't have a wall that is clear for me to demonstrate it, but I will demonstrate it against the sofa. So you've got an option. So if you do have a free wall that you can get right up against, then I'd recommend doing that. It's the most yin way of doing this posture. I'll show you the pose first. It's wide-legged forward fold like this, but even more beautiful with the spine on the ground and the legs up a wall. So imagine that this sofa here is a wall. I'm going to bring the outside of my hip up against the wall and then cartwheel my spine backwards and split my legs out into a V shape up against the wall. So I want my bum and my legs as close to the wall as possible. And if you do that, you can have your arms out wide, hands on belly, or arms behind your head. If, like me, that is not an option, then you can grab a block or a cushion or a folded blanket, place it under your bum, and take your legs out into a moderate V shape. It doesn't need to be the widest your legs will go. And you might want a bolster or some cushions nearby to lean forward into. You've got a couple of options. You could place your elbows on something, palms to prayer, and then the thumbs into the third eye center. I really like using that kind of pressure point to lean my weight forward into. It allows the chest to be a bit more open, spine to be a bit long and neutral. Or you can hug the bolster, one cheek down or forehead down, or you can have the bolster upright and you face plant into the top of the bolster like this. So whichever option is appropriate and sustainable for you. We'll be here for 3 minutes. This is going to be a big load through the inside of the legs, which is the kidney meridian line, but also you've got the back of the legs being released here, the urinary bladder meridian line. If any of you feel a sharp pulling sensation around the inside of your knee, that is not what we're going for. We always want to make sure that if we're feeling a release in the muscular tissue, we want it to be in the belly of the muscle, like the most robust kind of middle part of the muscle, not near the ends where they attach to the joints. So if you're feeling a sharp pulling sensation around the back or the insides of the knees, I'd recommend that you bend your knees a little bit and slip just something small like a flannel or a little bit of blanket underneath the backs of the knees. So the knees are a little bit bent. It also might be a good reason to bring the legs a tiny bit closer together as well. So your angle is not so severe. Just really soften and let go. Let the mind be really gentle, open, dreamy. Scan your awareness through the bones of your body. relaxing the jawbone, relaxing the weight of the skull, feeling the curves in the neck, spine, the vertebrae, and the space between the vertebrae. Feel the rib cage and how the rib bones connect to the thoracic vertebrae. And as you breathe, there's a bit more space between the ribs and between the vertebral discs. And as you breathe out, there's less space. You feel this kind of closing, centering sensation in the bone structure. And if your head is facing one side, just turn it the other way. And then make your way back up through to center. Yeah, those of you against a wall, just make your way to a seated position on your mats. You could sit cross-legged, you could be kneeling. Come into kneeling Siddhasana, which is this one, heels into the middle of the groin, or Sukhasana with the legs crossed, palms face upwards on your knees. Roll the shoulder blades back and down. Tune into the upright, alert, yet soft posture of your body. And cultivate this feeling of whole body listening. The posture is the meditation. So with the heart center open, the shoulder blades drawing down the back, the pelvis connected to the earth beneath you, the crown of the head connected to the sky above. You don't need to do anything with the mind. Just let it be in the body and in this moment in time, in this space, connected to the outside landscape, to this season, and connected to the constant flow of things surfacing gently in a dreamlike way through the body. You're welcome to close the practice staying in meditation, or if you prefer to come down to lying Shavasana now, come to a lying position, ideally a bolster underneath the backs of your knees, maybe a blanket over your body, maybe a blanket underneath the back of your head. I know it's tempting to skip this bit on an online practice, but see if you can just at least take this minute that I'll be here with you to seal the practice. This is the moment when the impact of the whole sequence takes kind of place within the body, takes seat within the body. To give yourself this chance to let our whole practice together percolate and be absorbed. Listen intimately and non-intrusively to what's surfacing within the space that you're in, what's surfacing within the space of your body. And then take one hand to your belly, one hand to the center of your chest. Nice long, slow breath in. And as you exhale, breathe out through the mouth with a big, strong ha sound. Let tension dissolve. Well done. And then roll to the side, coming into the fetal position. And bring yourself up to kneel or to sit, hands to prayer. And bow your head down. Offering up your practice to someone or something else. Excuse me. Namaste.